Ciphers of Time, Awakening the Legacy. Chapter 12, Together. Shantanu's appearance merged with the twilight as he stepped into the familiar garden, where petals and promises often intertwined. Malini, sitting on the stone bench, her gaze was fixed on the twirling fireflies, turned at the sound of his footsteps. The air between them thickened with unspoken foreboding. Malini, Shantanu began, his voice a mix of resolve and regret. There are things I must do, journeys I must undertake. You need to promise me that what I'm about to share stays locked away within you. Her eyes, mirrors of concern, met his. I promise, she whispered, sensing the gravity of his plea. He exhaled, revealing the tale of the upcoming quest for the Power Stone. He discussed the mystical abilities active within him and Manu. This was the first time he mentioned Manu's city to Malini. A sense of liberation washed over him as he finally divulged all the details to her. Only those who wield these gifts can unlock the stone's secrets, Shantanu confessed, his hand instinctively reaching for Malini's. Malini's body convulsed with a chill that seemed to penetrate her very core as she absorbed the gravity of his words. The mere mention of Prajna Ratna, the all-powerful stone, sent her mind reeling, leaving her momentarily paralyzed in shock and fear. Shantanu, please, she implored, her voice trembling. Vishwa himself warned of the danger. This isn't just another tale. It's real, and it could claim your life. His gaze lingered on her, the depth of her care ensnaring his heart even further. Yet behind her worry lay a fierce determination. Nothing worked during the training days because Vishwa couldn't awaken what was already stirring within you, Malini argued, her hands clasping his tighter. Remember how your powers surged when we were together? We can explore this path side by side, sidestep the peril that lies ahead. Trust me, we have a chance to make it work without taking such risks. The desperation in her voice clawed at him, her logic weaving a seductive spell. She was right, there had been moments of unexplained strength, bursts of energy when she was near. Could they indeed harness this power without embarking on a treacherous hunt? Malini, Shantanu's voice cracked, a tumult of emotions storming within. You've always been my anchor, my beacon through the darkest nights. But this is a calling I cannot ignore. Tears glistened in Malini's eyes, reflecting the first stars of evening. Her plea hung in the air, a fragile hope against the drumming call of destiny. Her presence brought a sense of calmness to the chaos of his thoughts, making his determination falter. Shantanu was on the brink of giving up his search for the stone, swayed by Malini's convincing arguments. Just as he was about to decide, a voice interrupted their conversation with an urgent tone. Shantanu? The sound cut through the air and demanded his attention. Manu, shoulders squared and eyes alight with purpose, strode toward them. A brief look of surprise flickered across Malini's face as Manu extended a hand in greeting. I am Manu, Shantanu's brother. Malini, she offered in return, the warmth in her tone tinged with unease at his sudden appearance. Brother, Manu said, turning to Shantanu with an apologetic but firm expression. It's getting late, and we need to rise early tomorrow to get ready for our journey. Please, just a few more minutes, Shantanu implored, his voice heavy with unspoken emotions. Manu nodded, the lines of concern etched into his face softening for a moment before he retreated, giving them space yet casting a shadow of inevitability over their parting. Shantanu's emotions were swirling inside him like a raging storm as he turned to face Malini. Her eyes met his, desperately searching for something to hold on to in the midst of the powerful currents that were pulling Shantanu away. But it was in this intense gaze that Shantanu found the courage to speak his truth out loud. Malini, he began, his hands finding hers, holding them as if they were the only certainty left in the world. All of it, it's my fault. Manu's life was settled, peaceful. Now he's caught up in this mess because of me. Her lips parted, a silent protest forming, but Shantanu pressed on, needing her to understand. My brother would have been content with his family if I hadn't involved myself in all of this. He never gave up on me when I needed him the most, and now it's my responsibility to repay him. If not for my own sake, I am determined to embark on this journey for the sake of my brother. Please try to see things from my perspective. Shantanu grasped Malini's hands and directed his gaze towards his brother, who stood at a distance, patiently waiting for him. Malini's breath hitched, a silent sob threatening to break through her composure. "But what of us?" "Listen to me," Shantanu urged, his voice full of certainty. "I promise I'll come back to you. This isn't the end, Malini. It's just a storm we need to get through." Malini's eyes brimmed with tears that mirrored the pain in Shantanu's heart. An internal war raged within her as she battled feelings of guilt and conflict. She had a mission to complete, and she had done it flawlessly, gaining the information she needed from Shantanu. But now her emotions were getting in the way. She found herself genuinely liking him, though she wasn't sure how much guilt influenced her feelings. One thing was certain: she was drawn to his innocence and exuberance. Unable to hold back any longer, she burst into tears. Their hands lingered together, reluctant to part, but they were soon disturbed by Manu's voice. "Shantanu!" now tinged with urgency. With a final squeeze of her hands, Shantanu released Malini, stepping back and turning towards the path that beckoned him, the path that led to redemption for his brother and ultimately back to her. Malini's voice rose in a crescendo of desperation, her words laced with the fear of losing him. "Shantanu, please, don't do this." Her pleas echoed in his mind, but they couldn't detain his steps, pulling him back to his brother. As he turned away, his gaze met Malini's once more, and in that moment, he sealed their bond with a swift kiss on her cheek, a silent promise conveyed in that fleeting touch. "It's getting late!" Manu's voice was like a sharpened blade when Shantanu finally arrived at his side, huffing from the sprint. The reprimand was brief, a reflection of Manu's own tightly wound apprehension. "Sorry," Shantanu panted, trying to catch his breath, the taste of Malini's tears still lingering on his lips. "We don't have much time, Shantanu." Manu cut him off, his brow furrowed, the lines there a testament to the weight he bore. "This isn't some childish game. It's life or death." Shantanu nodded. In that moment, under Manu's scrutinizing gaze, Shantanu stood taller, fortified by the knowledge that the path ahead required every ounce of his courage and determination. "Let's get ready," Shantanu said, a newfound solemnity in his voice. "We have a power stone to find." The clatter of metal and rustle of fabric filled the room as Shantanu and Manu packed their gear with methodical precision. "Remember when we used to pack for school trips?" Shantanu mused, a half-smile tugging at his lips despite the tension that knotted his stomach. Manu chuckled, folding a map with practiced hands. "You always forgot something. Once, you even left your shoes behind." "Ah, but you were there to share yours," Shantanu replied, the warmth of nostalgia briefly outshining the cold dread of their impending journey. They sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by the fortress of their belongings as the hours waned. The room was glowing with the soft light of a single lamp, casting long shadows that danced upon the walls like specters of the past. "Sometimes I still hear the screech of tires, the shattering glass," Manu said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. The brothers locked eyes, sharing a moment of silence for the parents they had lost too soon. A wound time had dulled but never fully healed. Shantanu reached over, placing a hand on Manu's shoulder. "We survived, though. Found a new family in the orphanage." "More than survived. We thrived," Manu corrected him, "because we had each other." Laughter and tears mingled freely as they recounted tales of mischief and camaraderie, their tiny victories against the odds of a life that could have broken them, but instead forged an unbreakable bond. As midnight crept upon them, their conversation tapered into solemn contemplation. "Scared?" Shantanu asked, his voice betraying a hint of vulnerability. "Terrified," Manu confessed, "but excited. We're part of something bigger, Shantanu." "Together," Shantanu affirmed, the word a beacon in the night. They settled in for the night, aware that dawn would soon call them to action. They drifted off to sleep, thoughts of power stones and dangers filling their dreams. Tomorrow held both promise and danger.